The council chamber floated in the void between stars, a massive structure of crystal and light that had witnessed 3,000 years of peace. Inside, representatives from 47 species gathered in their designated sections, each area modified to suit the unique needs of its occupants. The air shimmered with translation fields as dozens of languages merged into a single understood tongue. Fleet Commander Zekthar stood at attention in the Vryn section, his chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the chamber's soft lights. His 4 eyes tracked the movements of the council members as they debated the day's most unusual topic, humans, a species that had only achieved faster than light. Travel 5 years ago now stood before the Galactic Coalition requesting membership as ambassador. Lyra Vasquez stood at the center of the chamber, a small figure compared to most of the alien species around her. She wore a simple blue uniform with Earth's symbol on the shoulder. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her hands remained calm at her sides despite the scrutiny of thousands of eyes. "Honored council members," she said, her voice steady. "Humanity comes before you in humility and hope. We have much to learn from the great civilizations represented here. We seek only the opportunity to join your peaceful union and contribute what we can to the common good." Councillor Thren of the Aquarii species raised one of his 6 tentacles. "Your petition is noted, Ambassador. However, our records show that your species still maintains military vessels. This is contrary to Coalition law. All member species must surrender their warships and rely on the Coalition's patrol fleet for protection." Lyra nodded. "We understand this requirement, Councillor. We have brought our vessel Prometheus as a gesture of good faith. It is our largest ship, and we are prepared to discuss its decommissioning as part of our membership process." Zekthar's mandibles clicked softly. He had reviewed the human files before this meeting. They were a young species, barely worthy of notice. Their technology was primitive, their society fragmented into competing nations, and their single ship was likely a crude attempt at impressing the Coalition. The Vryn had been assigned to escort this Prometheus to the capital world for dismantling. It would be a simple mission, completed within a few cycles. The council deliberated for another hour before reaching their decision. The humans would be granted provisional status. Their ship would be escorted to the shipyards, decommissioned, and converted into a civilian research vessel. After a probationary period of 10 years, full membership would be considered. Lyra accepted the terms with grace. Zekthar admired that about the human. She did not argue or protest, even though he could see the disappointment in her eyes. Perhaps these humans understood their place in the galaxy after all. 3 days later, Zekthar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Morning Light. Around him, his crew moved with practiced efficiency, their movements synchronized after years of service together. The Morning Light was a patrol cruiser, 400 meters of sleek design and advanced sensors. Beside it floated 15 other Vryn ships, the largest escort fleet assembled in decades. Excessive, Zekthar had told the council. 1 ship would be sufficient to escort a primitive human vessel. "Protocol must be observed," they had replied. "The humans claim this is a warship. We will treat it as such until proven otherwise." Now, as his fleet approached the rendezvous coordinates, Zekthar wondered if even 16 ships might have been too many. His sensors showed nothing. Empty space, a few distant asteroids, and the background radiation of the universe. "Scan again," he ordered. The humans provided these exact coordinates. His sensor officer, a young Vryn named Kith, worked her console with all 4 hands. "Commander, I am detecting nothing. No ships, no debris, no energy signatures. The space is empty." Zekthar felt a flutter of annoyance. Had the humans provided incorrect coordinates? Were they lost? He was about to order a wider search pattern when Kith made a sharp clicking sound of alarm. "Commander, contact massive energy signature directly ahead." The view screen erupted with light. Where there had been nothing, there was now a ship. It materialized like a predator emerging from tall grass, and Zekthar felt his breathing tubes constrict. The Prometheus was enormous. 3 kilometers from bow to stern, it dwarfed every ship in his fleet combined. But it was not the size that made Zekthar's instincts scream danger. It was the design. Coalition ships were smooth and elegant, built for efficiency and beauty. The Prometheus looked like it had been designed to fight. Angular armor plates overlapped across the hull, each one scarred and reinforced. Weapon ports dotted every surface, too many to count. The ship's profile was aggressive, threatening, like the predators from Zekthar's homeworld that had nearly driven his ancestors to extinction. "That cannot be their only ship," Kith whispered. "Tell me that is not their only ship." Zekthar forced himself to speak calmly, even as his threat assessment instincts fired warnings through his nervous system. "Open a communication channel." The view screen shifted to show a human face. The woman appeared to be in her 40s by human standards, with short gray hair and sharp blue eyes. She wore a dark uniform with insignia that Zekthar's translator identified as indicating high rank. "Fleet Commander Zekthar," the human said with a slight smile. "I'm Captain Sarah Chen of the Prometheus. Welcome. We've been expecting you." "Captain Chen," Zekthar managed, his voice only slightly unsteady. "Your vessel is larger than our intelligence suggested, is it?" Chen looked genuinely puzzled. "We tried to send accurate specifications. Prometheus is actually quite modest by our standards. She's a diplomatic vessel built for long-range missions and first-contact scenarios." A diplomatic vessel. Zekthar's mind struggled with the concept. If this monster was for diplomacy, what did their actual warships look like? "I see," he said carefully. "Per Coalition protocols, I must request permission to come aboard with my security detail to discuss the decommissioning process." "Of course, Commander. We'd be honored to host you. I'll have Ambassador Vasquez join us as well. Transmitting docking coordinates now." The channel closed and Zekthar stood in silence for a long moment. Around him, his crew waited for orders. He could feel their unease. The Vryn had not known fear for 3,000 years. They had forgotten what it felt like to look at another species and recognize a threat. "Assemble a security team of 20, Zekthar said finally. "Full ceremonial armor. We will board the human vessel and complete our mission as ordered, Commander," Kith said quietly. "That ship has weapons. Many weapons. Active targeting systems. If they wish to destroy us—" "They will not," Zekthar interrupted, hoping he sounded more confident than he felt. "The humans are here to join the coalition. They seek peace. This ship is simply a misunderstanding of appropriate scale." But as the morning light maneuvered toward the Prometheus's docking bay, Zekthar could not shake the feeling that something fundamental had changed. The galaxy had been peaceful for so long that most species had forgotten what war even meant. Looking at the Prometheus, at its armored hull and weapon ports and predatory design, Zekthar realized that humans had not forgotten. They remembered very well indeed. The docking bay doors opened, large enough to swallow his entire ship, and the morning light glided inside. Whatever happened next, Zekthar knew that the galaxy would never be quite the same again. The docking bay was immaculate. Zekthar had expected crude welding marks and primitive construction, but the Prometheus's interior was surprisingly sophisticated. The walls were lined with a gray metal alloy he did not recognize, and the lighting was adjusted to a comfortable level for his Vryn physiology. Someone had done their research. Captain Chen waited at the bay entrance with Ambassador Vasquez and a small honor guard. The human soldiers stood at attention in dark uniforms, unarmed but radiating a controlled readiness that made Zekthar's security team shift nervously. Coalition security forces were ceremonial. These humans looked like they actually knew how to fight. "Welcome aboard, Commander," Chen said, extending her hand in the human greeting gesture. Zekthar had studied human customs and reached out with one of his forward limbs to briefly grasp her hand. Her grip was firm and warm. "Thank you for your hospitality, Captain. May I introduce my second officer, Kith, and my security chief, Vorn." The pleasantries continued as they walked deeper into the ship. Zekthar tried to catalog everything he saw. Emergency bulkheads every 50 meters, each one thick enough to seal off entire sections. Damage control stations at regular intervals. Fire suppression systems built into the ceiling. The ship was designed to take punishment and keep functioning. They passed an open doorway and Zekthar glimpsed a large room where dozens of humans were engaged in physical combat. Not training with simulation equipment, but actual hand-to-hand fighting. They grappled and struck each other with controlled violence while an instructor shouted corrections. "Our gym," Chen explained, noticing his interest. "Off-duty crew like to stay in shape. Plus it builds unit cohesion." "Your people train for physical combat," Zekthar observed. "In space? Old habits," Chen said with a slight smile. "You never know when you might need to defend yourself." They continued through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The Prometheus was not just large, it was a floating city. Zekthar saw residential areas, parks with real plants, schools for children. Thousands of humans lived on this ship, entire families making their lives among the stars. The conference room was comfortable, with seats adjusted for both human and Vryn anatomy. Food and drinks were provided, carefully researched to be safe for Vryn consumption. Zekthar appreciated the effort even as his mind continued cataloging details. The room had no windows, located deep in the ship's interior. The walls were reinforced. This was a room designed to function even if the outer hull was breached. "Commander," Ambassador Vasquez began once everyone was seated, "we understand the Coalition's concerns about our vessel. We want to assure you that humanity comes in peace. We have no hostile intentions toward any member species." "Your assurances are noted, Ambassador," Zekthar replied. "However, Coalition law is clear. No military vessels. The Prometheus must be decommissioned." Chen and Vasquez exchanged a glance. The captain set down her drink and leaned forward. "Commander, I need to clarify something. The Prometheus is not a military vessel. It's a diplomatic ship, designed for long-range exploration and first contact missions. Yes, it has weapons, but only for self-defense." Zekthar's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter if the Vryn had such a concept. "Captain, your ship is larger than my entire fleet combined. It has enough weapons to level a planetary surface. How can you claim it is not military?" "Because you haven't seen our actual military ships," Chen said quietly. The room went silent. Zekthar felt his breathing tubes constrict again. "Explain." Vasquez pulled up a holographic display. Images appeared above the table. Ships, dozens of them, hundreds, each one bristling with weapons, each one radiating the same predatory menace as the Prometheus. "Earth's defensive fleet consists of approximately 2,000 vessels," Vasquez said, "destroyers, cruisers, carriers, and dreadnoughts. The Prometheus is a diplomatic vessel. We brought it specifically because it's one of our less threatening ships." "Less threatening," Kith whispered, all her calm professionalism forgotten. Zekthar's mind raced. 2,000 warships, an entire military fleet. These humans were not primitive. They were a military power unlike anything the galaxy had seen in millennia. "Why?" he asked finally. "Why does your species need such weapons?" Chen's expression grew somber. "Because on Earth, Commander, war never ended." Over the next hour, the humans explained their history. Zekthar listened with growing horror as they described thousands of years of continuous conflict. Empires rising and falling, weapons growing more sophisticated and deadly, nuclear weapons that could destroy entire cities, chemical and biological agents designed to kill by the millions. "But surely your species learned," Zekthar protested. "Surely after seeing such destruction you chose peace." "We tried," Vasquez said. "Many times. But Earth is different from most Coalition worlds, Commander. Our planet is heavy with strong gravity. Resources are limited. We evolved as predators hunting for survival. Competition is in our nature." Chen pulled up images of Earth. Zekthar saw a blue and green world, beautiful from space. But the captain showed him closer images. Massive storms that could destroy cities, earthquakes that split the ground open, volcanoes that turned day into night, animals with fangs and claws and venom. "We call Earth a death world," Chen explained. "It tried to kill our ancestors every single day. We learned to fight back. We learned to make weapons and tools and strategies. We learned to work together against threats. And when we ran out of external threats, we turned on each other." "That is horrifying," Vorn said bluntly. "Yes," Chen agreed. "It is. We're not proud of our history, Commander. We've done terrible things to each other, but we've also learned from our mistakes. That's why we're here. We want to join the Coalition. We want to learn how to be better." Zekthar looked at the humans before him. Vasquez, who had stood before the council with such dignity. Chen, who commanded a ship designed for war but spoke of peace. They were a contradiction. A species that knew violence intimately but reached for something better. "The Coalition will never allow you to keep your fleet," Zekthar said. "They will see you as a threat." "We know," Vasquez replied. "That's why we're hoping you'll help us, Commander. You're a reasonable man. You can see that we're not monsters. We're just trying to survive and improve." Before Zekthar could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Red lights flashed in the corridor outside. Chen was on her feet instantly, her relaxed demeanor vanishing. "Report." She snapped into a communication device on her wrist. A voice responded, urgent and professional. "Captain, we're receiving a distress signal from Coalition space. Multiple colonies under attack. Unknown hostile fleet. Coalition patrol ships are requesting immediate assistance. Chen looked at Zekthar. Commander, I need to access your communication channels now. Within minutes, they were in the Prometheus's command center. The bridge was a symphony of activity, dozens of crew members at stations monitoring everything from weapons to life support. The main view screen showed a tactical map of Coalition space. Zekthar watched the data flow in with increasing alarm. 12 large vessels had appeared at the outer colonies. They were attacking civilian populations, destroying infrastructure, and overwhelming the small Coalition patrol ships sent to investigate. The Kresh, Vasquez breathed. It has to be them. Who are the Kresh? Chen demanded. Zekthar explained quickly. A species denied Coalition membership 200 years ago. They were too aggressive, too warlike. They rejected our peaceful ways and disappeared into deep space. We thought they had died out. They didn't die, Chen said, studying the tactical display. They prepared, more reports came in. Thousands of civilians dead, colonies burning. The Coalition Council was in emergency session, but they had no military to respond. They had no defense. For 3,000 years, peace had been maintained through law and diplomacy. No one had imagined they would face an actual invasion. Zekthar watched the disaster unfold with a feeling of helplessness. His patrol ships could do nothing against a true military fleet. The Coalition was defenseless. Then Chen spoke, her voice calm and certain. Helm, set course for the attack site. Maximum speed. Captain? Her first officer questioned. Those are civilians being slaughtered, Chen said. We're the only ship in range that can help. We're going, she looked at Zekthar. Unless you object, Commander? Zekthar thought of his people's 3,000 years of peace. He thought of the Coalition's proud history of civilization without violence. Then he thought of the thousands of people dying while that civilization watched helplessly. No objection, Captain, he said quietly. Do what you must. The Prometheus moved through space faster than Zekthar thought possible. Chen had ordered something called emergency thrust, and the massive ship had accelerated to speeds that would have torn his patrol cruisers apart. Human engineering, it seemed, was built for extremes. On the bridge, Zekthar stood beside Captain Chen as she coordinated with her crew. The efficiency was remarkable. Every human knew their role, and orders were executed immediately without question. This was not a crew that had trained together for show. They had drilled these procedures until they became instinct. ETA to target. 4 hours, the navigator reported. Communications. Get me a channel to Earth Command, Chen ordered. The view screen shifted to show an older human man in a military uniform, sitting in what appeared to be an underground command center. His hair was white and his face was lined with age, but his eyes were sharp and alert. Admiral Morrison, Chen said. We have a situation. She briefed him quickly on the Kresh attack and the Coalition's request for help. The Admiral listened without interrupting, his expression grave. Your assessment, Captain? He asked when she finished. 12 hostile battlecruisers attacking civilian targets. Coalition patrol ships are no match. Estimated casualties in the tens of thousands if we don't intervene. I'm requesting permission to engage. The Coalition wants us to decommission our ships, the Admiral noted. Yes, sir, but right now they need us. The Admiral was silent for a moment, then nodded. Rules of engagement protect Coalition civilians. Use proportional force. Attempt diplomatic resolution first. If fired upon, weapons are free on hostile targets only. Avoid unnecessary casualties. Understood, sir. And Captain, show them what humanity can do, but show them our best, not our worst. Yes, sir. The channel closed and Chen turned to her tactical officer. Sound general quarters. Load all weapon systems. Bring shields to full power. I want every system at peak readiness. Throughout the ship, alarms began to sound. Zekthar watched crew members secure stations and equipment. Bulkheads sealed with heavy thuds. The entire vessel transformed from a comfortable home into a war machine. Commander, Chen said to Zekthar, I recommend you and your team move to the reinforced observation deck. It's safer there. I will stay here, Zekthar said firmly. I must see this. Chen studied him for a moment, then nodded. Suit yourself, strap in. Things are going to get rough. The 4 hours passed in tense preparation. Zekthar watched the crew run through combat drills with practiced precision. The weapons officer called out system checks. The engineering team reported power levels. The medical bay prepared for casualties. Every aspect of the ship was synchronized for battle. Finally, they arrived at the colony world of Thessia Minor. The destruction was visible even from orbit. 3 cities were burning, their lights visible against the dark side of the planet. Debris from destroyed orbital stations drifted through space. The small coalition patrol ships that had tried to defend the colony floated dead, their hulls torn open by superior weapons. And there were the Kresh. 12 battle cruisers, each one nearly a kilometer long, arranged in formation around the planet. They were bulky vessels, heavily armored and covered in weapon emplacements. Compared to the elegant coalition designs, they looked crude and brutal. They're targeting population centers, the tactical officer reported. Planetary bombardment in progress. Chen's jaw tightened. Open a channel. All frequencies. The communications officer worked quickly. Channel open, Captain. Attention, Kresh vessels. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earthship Prometheus. You are attacking civilian populations in violation of galactic law. Cease fire immediately and withdraw, or we will be forced to intervene. The response came quickly, a harsh voice filled with contempt. Earth? We have no record of this species. You have no authority here, Earthship. Leave now or be destroyed with the rest of these weaklings. Last chance, Chen said calmly. Stand down. Laughter echoed across the channel. Your ship is outnumbered 12-1. You are either brave or stupid. Let us find out which. The channel closed and 3 Kresh battlecruisers turned toward the Prometheus, their weapons charged with visible energy buildup, and plasma torpedoes launched in a salvo that lit up the darkness of space. Evasive maneuvers, Chen ordered. Shields to maximum. The Prometheus banked hard to port, moving with an agility that should have been impossible for something so large. Most of the torpedoes missed completely. The few that connected splashed against the ship's shields, dissipating harmlessly. Zekthar gripped his seat as the ship maneuvered. The Coalition had never developed shields strong enough to withstand military-grade weapons. They had never needed to. But the Prometheus's shields held without even flickering. They're not penetrating our defenses, Captain, the tactical officer reported. I didn't think they would, Chen replied. Our shields are rated for nuclear exchanges. Their plasma weapons are insufficient. She paused, then spoke clearly. Target their propulsion systems, fire. The Prometheus opened fire and Zekthar understood why humans were dangerous. The railguns were not energy weapons that splashed against shields. They were kinetic weapons, firing solid projectiles at speeds that made them nearly impossible to intercept. Tungsten slugs, each one weighing several tons, accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. They punched through the Kresh shields like they were not there at all. One moment, 3 Kresh battlecruisers were maneuvering for another attack. The next moment, their engines exploded in brilliant fireballs. The crippled ships tumbled out of formation, leaking atmosphere and debris. They were not destroyed, but they were no longer threats. The remaining 9 Kresh vessels hesitated. Zekthar could imagine their confusion. One ship had disabled 3 of theirs in seconds. What kind of enemy were they facing? They're regrouping, the tactical officer said. Coordinating their fire, all 9 ships targeting us simultaneously. Let them, Chen said. Show me their formation. The tactical display showed the Kresh ships spreading out, trying to surround the Prometheus and attack from multiple angles. It was a good strategy against a normal opponent. They're trying to divide our fire, Chen explained to Zekthar. Overwhelm our defenses with multiple targets. It's what I would do. She smiled slightly. But they don't understand what they're up against. The 9 Kresh ships opened fire together. Dozens of plasma torpedoes and particle beams converged on the Prometheus from all directions. The view screen showed a storm of incoming fire. Point defense systems. Engage, Chen ordered calmly. The Prometheus's point defense network activated, and Zekthar saw something he had never imagined. Dozens of automated turrets tracked the incoming projectiles, firing precisely targeted bursts. Every torpedo was destroyed before it reached the ship. Every particle beam was deflected by the shields. Nothing got through. Not a single hit, impossible. Kith whispered from beside him. No ship can defend against that many weapons. Human ships can, Chen said, overhearing. We designed these systems to protect against nuclear missiles traveling at thousands of kilometers per second. These plasma weapons are actually easier to intercept. The Kresh fired again, pouring more energy into their attack. The Prometheus's point defense continued to intercept everything. The shields did not even flicker. Meanwhile, Chen maneuvered the ship with careful precision, using the burning wreckage of the first 3 Kresh battlecruisers as cover. Target the formation leader, Chen ordered. Full missile spread. Missiles away. The tactical officer confirmed. Zekthar watched as a cloud of missiles erupted from the Prometheus's launch tubes. They were not simple projectiles. Each one maneuvered independently, dodging return fire and coordinating with each other. The Kresh point defense tried to intercept them, but there were too many moving too fast. The Kresh flagship's shields overloaded, and the missiles detonated against its hull. Armor plating shattered, sections vented to space. The massive ship began to drift, clearly crippled. Now the Kresh understood. One of their number broke formation and tried to flee. Chen let it go, focusing on the 7 still trying to fight. They're desperate, the tactical officer reported. The remaining ships are charging weapons for close-range engagement. They're going to try to ram us, Chen realized. Helm, prepare for emergency thrust. One of the Kresh battlecruisers, its weapons exhausted, turned toward the Prometheus and accelerated at full speed. It was a suicide run. A last desperate attempt to damage the human ship. Steady, Chen said quietly, watching the tactical display. The Kresh ship grew closer. At the last possible second, Chen ordered, "Emergency thrust, now." The Prometheus's engines flared with incredible power, and the ship jumped forward. The Kresh battlecruiser missed by mere meters, so close that Zekthar could see its hull details on the view screen. As it passed, Chen spoke one word. Fire. The Prometheus's aft missile tubes launched at point-blank range. The Kresh ship disintegrated in a massive explosion. The remaining 6 ships stopped their attack. Zekthar could see their formation falling apart, their coordination breaking down. They were beaten and they knew it. Chen opened a channel again. Kresh vessels, this is your final warning. Surrender now or I will destroy every remaining ship. Choose. For a long moment there was silence. The rescue operation took 6 hours. Zekthar watched from the observation deck as human shuttlecraft moved between the damaged Kresh vessels, pulling survivors from the wreckage. Medical teams worked tirelessly, treating injured Kresh soldiers with the same care they would give their own crew. It was confusing. Everything about the humans was confusing. They had fought with brutal efficiency, destroying 8 Kresh battlecruisers and crippling 4 more in less than 20 minutes. Then, the moment the battle ended, they had transformed into compassionate rescuers. One of the rescued Kresh soldiers was brought to the medical bay near where Zekthar was standing. The alien was large, nearly 3 meters tall, with thick gray skin and 4 arms. Its breathing was labored and burns covered much of its body. A human doctor, a small woman who barely reached the Kresh soldier's chest, immediately began treatment. "Don't move," she said firmly. "You have internal injuries. I need to stabilize you before we can move you to a proper bed." The Kresh soldier looked at her with 4 eyes filled with pain and confusion. "Why are you helping me?" "I tried to kill you." "That was before," the doctor said, injecting something into the soldier's arm. "Right now, you're my patient. That's all that matters." Zekthar turned away from the scene, his mind struggling to process what he had witnessed. He found Ambassador Vasquez in one of the conference rooms, watching reports from the planet below. The cities were still burning, but firefighting efforts were underway. Human rescue teams had landed to assist with evacuation. "Ambassador," Zekthar said, "I need to understand something." Vasquez looked up, her expression tired but patient. "Of course, Commander. Please sit. Your people are warriors," Zekthar said. "The finest I have ever seen. But you are also showing mercy to your enemies. These two things seem to contradict each other." Vasquez was quiet for a moment, considering her words carefully. "Commander, let me tell you about humanity's greatest strength. It's not our weapons or our ships or our tactics. It's our ability to remember." "Remember what?" "Everything. Every war we've fought, every mistake we've made. Every time violence led to more violence in an endless cycle." She pulled up images on her data pad. "Do you know what the most destructive war in human history was?" Zekthar saw images of Earth cities reduced to rubble, bodies piled in streets, mushroom clouds rising above destroyed civilizations. "The Second World War," Vasquez continued. "Nearly 80 million people died. Entire cities were erased. Nuclear weapons were used for the first and last time against population centers. The devastation was unimaginable. How did your species survive such horror? Barely, but we learned something crucial. We learned that defeating an enemy is not the same as destroying them. After the war ended, the victorious nations did something unexpected. Instead of punishing the defeated, they helped rebuild. They turned enemies into allies. They chose forgiveness over revenge. Vasquez showed him more images, this time of reconstruction. Former enemies working together. Nations that had tried to destroy each other becoming partners. It didn't happen overnight, Vasquez said. It took decades, generations, but it worked. We learned that mercy is not weakness, it's strength. The strength to break cycles of violence and create something better. Captain Chen entered the conference room looking exhausted. She had been coordinating with coalition authorities for hours, organizing the rescue efforts and managing the captured Kresh forces. Ambassador Commander? She greeted them. The Coalition Council is convening an emergency session. They're requesting our presence. The council chamber was in chaos when they arrived via holographic projection. Representatives from all 47 species were talking over each other, some with fear in their voices, others with anger. The attack had shattered 3,000 years of peaceful illusion. High Counselor Thren called for order, his tentacles waving forcefully. Silence! We must have order. When the chamber finally quieted, he turned his attention to the holographic projection of Captain Chen. Captain, your actions have saved thousands of lives. The Coalition owes humanity a debt of gratitude. We did what anyone would do when faced with innocent people in danger, Chen replied. But your methods, another counselor spoke up, a reptilian species called the Sarthak. The violence, the destruction. We watched the battle recordings. Is this truly necessary? Chen's expression hardened slightly. Counselor, those Kresh ships were bombarding civilian populations. They refused diplomatic resolution. They opened fire first. What would you have had me do? Perhaps negotiate more. Perhaps offer them something they wanted. They wanted your colonies, Chen said bluntly. They wanted your people dead or enslaved. There are some situations where words are not enough. Sometimes you must be willing to fight to protect the innocent. The council chamber erupted in argument again. Some species were grateful for humanity's intervention. Others were terrified of what they had seen. The humans had demonstrated military capability far beyond anything in Coalition space. They had shown that they could destroy any Coalition fleet with ease. Zekthar stepped forward in his section of the chamber. Honored council members, I speak as the Vryn commander assigned to escort the human vessel. I have spent days with these humans. I have seen their ship, their weapons, their capabilities. I have also seen their character. The chamber quieted to hear him speak. The Prometheus is indeed powerful beyond our understanding, Zekthar continued. But I have come to understand something crucial. The humans do not want to use their power. They are terrified of it. He pulled up the data he had gathered showing the interior of the Prometheus, the redundant safety systems, the extensive medical facilities, the crew training in hand-to-hand combat. Every system on that ship, every weapon, every tactic comes from hard experience. The humans have spent thousands of years learning how to survive against enemies who wanted to destroy them. They became warriors not by choice but by necessity. Their homeworld gave them no other option. Zekthar thought about everything he had witnessed. The efficient brutality of the battle, the immediate compassion shown to the defeated, the way Chen had given the Kresh every opportunity to surrender before opening fire. I was terrified when I first saw the Prometheus, Zekthar admitted. I still am, to be honest. But I have come to understand that humanity's strength is not just their weapons. It is their understanding of when to use those weapons and when to show mercy. They know the cost of violence better than any species in this chamber. Another counselor, a crystalline being called a Luminar, spoke up. But how can we trust them? They have the power to conquer us all. Because they don't want to, Ambassador Vasquez interjected. Counselor, if humanity wanted to conquer the galaxy, we wouldn't be standing here asking for membership. We would have just taken what we wanted. Instead, we came in peace, offering friendship and cooperation. You kept your true military strength secret, the Luminar accused. Would you have listened to us if we had arrived with our full fleet? Vasquez asked. Would you have seen us as potential friends, or as threats to be destroyed before we could threaten you? The silence in the chamber was answer enough. High Counselor Thren spoke thoughtfully. The humans present us with a unique situation. They have demonstrated both the capability for violence and the wisdom to restrain it. They have shown that they can protect the Coalition from threats we cannot handle ourselves, but they have also shown that they are dangerous. All strength is dangerous, Chen said quietly. The question is not whether power can harm. The question is who wields it and for what purpose. We came to the coalition seeking something better than endless conflict. We want to learn from your 3,000 years of peace. In return, we offer our protection against those who would destroy what you have built. And if we refuse? Another counselor asked. If we demand you decommission your fleet? Chen exchanged a glance with Vasquez, then spoke carefully. Then we will leave. We will not force our presence on you. But understand this. The galaxy is not as safe as you believed. The Kresh are just one example. There will be others who see your peace as weakness. What will you do when they come? The chamber fell silent again. The question hung in the air, unanswerable and terrifying. For 3,000 years, the coalition had believed that civilization had moved beyond violence. The Kresh attack had shattered that belief in a single day. Zekthar looked at the human representatives at their tired but determined faces. They were offering the coalition a choice. Accept their help and their strength or face the darkness alone. I propose, Zekthar said slowly, that we consider a different approach. Not membership as it currently exists, but something new. A partnership that acknowledges humanity's unique capabilities and our unique needs. High Counselor Thren's tentacles curled in thought. Continue, Commander. Humans maintain their military fleet, Zekthar proposed. In exchange, they serve as the coalition's defensive force. We share our technology, our medicine, our culture. They learn peace from us. We learn strength from them. The council erupted in debate once more, but this time, Zekthar saw consideration in many eyes. Fear still existed, but so did hope. The humans had saved them. Perhaps they could be trusted. As the debate raged on, Chen stood calmly waiting. She had done all she could. The Coalition Council debated for 3 days. Zekthar participated in every session, arguing tirelessly for his proposal. It was not an easy fight. Many species were terrified of humanity's military power. They saw the battle recordings and imagined those weapons turned against coalition worlds. But others remembered the burning cities on Thessia Minor. They remembered their helplessness as the Kresh had attacked. They understood that peace required protection, and protection required strength they did not possess. On the 3rd day, High Counselor Thren called for a final vote. The chamber was tense as each species cast their decision. It was close, far closer than Zekthar would have liked, but in the end the proposal passed by a narrow margin. Humanity would be granted provisional membership under unique terms. They could maintain their fleet, but would serve as the coalition's defensive force. In exchange, the coalition would share technology, medicine, and cultural knowledge. Human advisors would be stationed throughout coalition space to teach about conflict resolution, threat assessment, and defense strategies. Most importantly, a new position was created, the Coalition Defense Coordinator. Captain Chen was offered the role, commanding from the Prometheus, which would serve as the coalition's flagship. Ambassador Vasquez accepted the terms with visible relief. They had achieved more than they had hoped for when they first arrived. Humanity had found a place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as protectors. 2 months later, Zekthar visited the Prometheus again. The ship had been modified slightly, with sections now dedicated to coalition liaison officers and cultural exchange programs. Human crew members were learning Vrin, Aquari, and a dozen other languages. Coalition members were learning human tactics and strategies. He found Captain Chen on the observation deck watching the stars. She looked more relaxed than their first meeting, though he suspected she would never be truly at ease. Warriors never were, Commander. She greeted him warmly. Good to see you. How are the integration programs going? Better than expected, Zekthar admitted. Your people are patient teachers. My security forces are learning much about defensive tactics and threat assessment. Though I must admit, some of your training exercises are intense. Chen smiled. We believe in realistic training. Better to sweat in practice than bleed in battle. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching a nearby nebula shimmer with colors. Finally, Zekthar asked the question that had been on his mind since the battle. Captain, why did you save the Kresh? After what they did, after they tried to kill you, why show them mercy? Chen was quiet for a long moment before answering. Because I know what it's like to be desperate, Commander. To feel like violence is the only answer. To think that the only way to survive is to destroy anyone who might be a threat. She pulled up an image on her datapad, showing Earth from space. My ancestors lived through something called the Resource Wars. Climate change had made large parts of our planet uninhabitable. Nations fought over what was left. Billions died. It was brutal and pointless and necessary all at the same time, or so people thought. What changed? Zekthar asked. People got tired of dying, Chen said simply. They realized that fighting over scraps was stupid when they could work together to create more. It took a long time and it wasn't easy, but eventually humanity started cooperating instead of competing. We pooled our resources, shared our technology, and fixed the damage we had caused. She looked at him with those sharp blue eyes. The Kresh remind me of old Earth, desperate, angry, lashing out at anyone who seems to have what they need. The Coalition denied them membership 200 years ago because they were too aggressive. So they went away and became even more aggressive, convinced that was the only way to survive. You think they can change? Zekthar asked skeptically. I think everyone deserves a chance to change. The Coalition gave humanity that chance. Maybe we can give the Kresh the same opportunity. As if summoned by the conversation, a communication request came through. Chen accepted and a Kresh face appeared on the view screen. It was one of the commanders from the battle, the one who had surrendered. His 4 eyes showed a mixture of shame and uncertainty. Captain Chen, the Kresh said, his voice rough. I am Commander Thrak. I wanted to thank you for the medical care your people have provided. We have lost no additional lives since our surrender, thanks to your doctors. You're welcome, Commander Thrak, Chen replied.
How are your people adjusting?
It is difficult, Thrak admitted. We expected execution or imprisonment. Instead, we are treated as guests. I do not understand why. Because you're not our enemies anymore, Chen said. The battle is over. Now we have a chance to figure out why it happened and how to prevent it from happening again. Thrak was silent for a moment. The Coalition rejected us. We were told we were too violent, too dangerous to join their perfect peace. We spent 200 years alone building our fleet, preparing to take by force what we could not gain through diplomacy. We thought strength was the only language the galaxy understood. Strength is important, Chen acknowledged, but so is knowing when not to use it. The Coalition has learned that the hard way. They built a society based on peace, which is admirable, but they forgot that peace requires protection. And your species? Thrak asked. What have you learned? Chen smiled sadly. That violence is easy, but building something worthwhile after the violence ends is hard. We're still learning that lesson. The conversation continued and Zekthar listened with fascination. Chen was offering the Kresh something unexpected. Understanding. Not forgiveness for what they had done, but acknowledgement of why they had done it. A chance to find a different path forward. Over the following weeks, similar conversations happened throughout Coalition space. Human advisors met with species that had never considered the possibility of conflict. They taught defensive strategies, threat assessment, crisis management, but they also taught something more important: how to recognize when someone's aggression came from fear or desperation rather than genuine malice. The Kresh were granted conditional membership in the Coalition. They would surrender their military fleet like all member species, but they would be integrated into the new Coalition Defense Force under human training and supervision. It was not a perfect solution, but it was a beginning. Zekthar found himself working closely with both human and Kresh officers. It was strange at first, standing alongside beings who had nearly killed him months ago. But as they trained together, he began to understand what Chen had meant. The Kresh were not monsters. They were just a species that had been pushed to extremes by circumstance. One day, during a joint training exercise, a young Kresh soldier approached Zekthar hesitantly. "Commander," the soldier said, "I want to apologize for the attack on your people. I was on one of the battle cruisers. I helped target those colonies. I thought we were doing what was necessary for survival. I was wrong." Zekthar looked at the young soldier, seeing genuine remorse in his eyes. "Apology accepted. Now let us work together to make sure nothing like that happens again." The soldier's relief was visible. He had expected rejection or hatred. Instead, he found acceptance and a chance to be better. 3 months after the battle, Zekthar stood in the council chamber once more. Captain Chen was present via hologram, giving her first official report as Coalition Defense Coordinator. "The integration is proceeding well," Chen reported. "We have established defensive positions throughout Coalition space. Early warning systems are in place. Training programs are showing excellent results. The coalition is no longer defenseless, and the human fleet? High Counselor Thren asked. Remains at Earth as agreed, Chen confirmed. The Prometheus and a small task force of support ships are sufficient for coalition defense. Our larger vessels are not needed here. What about future threats? Another counselor asked. The Kresh were defeated easily by human technology. But what if something stronger appears? Chen's expression grew serious. That's actually something I need to address. Our deep space probes have detected anomalous readings at the galaxy's edge. Large energy signatures, unknown origin. They're too far away to investigate right now, but they warrant monitoring. The chamber erupted in concerned murmurs. Zekthar felt his breathing tubes constrict. They had barely finished dealing with one threat, and already another loomed on the horizon. Are we in immediate danger? Thren asked. Not immediate, Chen replied. These readings are from several years ago, given the distances involved. Whatever caused them is still far from coalition space, but I recommend we prepare. Continue training, strengthen our defenses. Hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. It was very human advice, Zekthar thought. The coalition had spent 3,000 years hoping for the best. The humans had spent thousands of years preparing for the worst. Perhaps together they could find balance. Later that day, Zekthar returned to the Prometheus for a scheduled meeting. He found Chen in her ready room reviewing reports. She looked tired but content, as if she had finally found a purpose that suited her. The council was pleased with your report, Zekthar said, though the news about the deep space readings has them concerned. As it should, Chen replied. The galaxy is a big place, Commander.